Good evening and welcome in to Tried and True, the DC United post-game podcast presented by Heineken. You've got Michael Black and Joshua Morgan here. We'll be joined by Sam Kastner in just a few minutes, and we are living it up. DC United on a 2-game win streak, 2 commanding victories. What did you think, Joshua?
Oh, it was so exciting. It's a fun time to be at Audi Field because DC United is tearing it up. They've been pretty good at home all year, and then to have this win this past weekend and then a win tonight against a Western Conference team, we don't get too many cracks at them this season. So it was super fun. I'm excited to break this game down with you guys.
Well, and not just a win against a Western Conference team, but a Western Conference team that you look at as a similar situation to DC United. Both the teams were 6th going into tonight, and DC United really controlled the game, and they did what you'd expect from a team at home. You scored the late goal to go up 3-1, but again, to win a game fairly comfortably, scoring multiple goals like that, this is not the DC United team that your parents are used to seeing, and not the team that we're used to seeing. It's a different environment altogether, and I, for one, very much enjoy watching this team.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. They came out and they were the team that wanted to win the game, and we saw that in the lineups. Minnesota maybe resting a couple players, notably Reynoso not in the squad tonight, didn't even come off the bench. But DC United played out probably their optimal lineup. You can argue Reina Flores right now, and I'm sure we'll hit on that. But yeah, DC United really going for it, and this is not the DC United of old. It's a new time, and I keep having myself catch myself in the stands, and I keep hearing other people catch themselves. I guess we were so used to a certain kind of style, and that's been completely blown away, and it's super fun here. This is the first time at the end of the season where we're, at least in a while, where we weren't having to make a miraculous comeback. We've been in the loop, and we're still fighting for points, and maybe now hoping to get a home playoff game.
Oh, yeah, right now, I think if the season ended today, which it does not, DC United would be 3rd. And if you had told me that DC United would even be sniffing 3rd place in the league or in the conference, going into October, I would have told you were crazy at the beginning of the season. It's a fantastic place to be. Normally we try to bring you the press conference. We're not going to be able to bring it to you live tonight. Logistics coming from the game is always a challenge, but we will append that to the end of the podcast here. So if you're listening into it after our live show later in the week, you'll be able to catch that on the podcast. But you mentioned the lineup, and I agree. I think it was pretty close to a first choice lineup. You got some favors done for you by absolutely thrashing that Cincinnati team over the weekend. You were able to make some subs early, and you really have guys who were more or less fresh, although you did start to see some tired legs by the end of the game. But this is the time of year where all the teams are playing multiple games in a week. I think Orlando also, I believe they played this evening as well. So it's a challenge, but DC United seem to be able to rise to it, and especially when you have a week where you have 6 points off of the first 2 games, and you can go into the weekend. It's going to be a big game against Orlando. I think we're now 2 points clearer than the standings. It's an exciting place to be. But like you said, lineup wise, you had Reyna go in for Flores, which I think is a more or less like for like decision. Now we can talk about salaries and all that within it, but having some different opportunities there. But talking about events of the game, Ola Kamara showed up early.
Yeah, the whole team showed up early, so much so that even with MLS referees, we had earned a yellow card by the 18th minute. That kind of, I don't know, gives you the complete picture, but gives you a glimpse at how much DC United was pushing here. And yeah, the guys were really going for it in the beginning. I will say Orlando is still currently playing, so they do play today. They will also be on short rest, and going into the last game before a little bit of a break here at the end of the season. I'm super excited for that. But yeah, this was a DC United team that came off and really pushed it to the opponent in the beginning. And I started getting concerns because Minnesota rested some guys. I started feeling actually like we felt in the Orlando game earlier in the season, where they kind of countered, mostly bunkered the whole time, and were just searching for a quick goal so they can completely shut it down. And DC United, I don't know if this is growth or they're just hitting their stride a little bit more, or maybe they just know now that they need to get out there and get that first goal. They were pushing for it.
Goals absolutely change games, and especially when you play a system the way that Lasada wants to play and the way DC United wants to play. The earlier you can jump on a team, get a goal, really force them to come out of their shell, it makes such a huge difference. And we've certainly seen DC United teams that concede early in the past, and it's always a challenge to be digging up from behind. This game in DC United never trailed. It's a weird spot to be in. It's a little bit different, but it's something that we welcome. Again, looking at lineup wise, you had pretty much what I'd expect to be your top choice center backs in there with Nahar, Birnbaum, and Pines. You can talk about whether Heinzike would push that once he comes back from injury, but pretty much what you'd hope for across the back there. You got Paredes on the wing, Gressel on the other wing. Really, what we've started to see is some consistency from the squad, and it's nice to have after a team that was decimated by injuries early. You're starting to see who the first choice guys are, who the guys are that are going to fill the roles and are really the ones that Losada trusts the most to put his system into place.
Yeah, it was the same group, and they played the sort of the same way. And sure enough, in the 23rd minute, 5 minutes after they earned that yellow card, I believe it was Nahar, even though it was on the left side, was dribbling away from the goal. And this is like the fourth time. Maybe he's done that individually, but definitely the team, where we're just possessing the ball in the box, dribbling away from a defender, and they just lunge and take out our guy, miss the ball completely. And that's a penalty. Like, by definition, it's probably always going to get called. And then Ola, confident as ever, hadn't missed a penalty all year, steps up, stutters, and beats Miller, who, foreshadowing, I'm going to say has had a good year and has recovered from his maybe earlier career snafus. But he wasn't enough to beat Ola in the 18th or 23rd minute from the penalty spot, and we started to feel pretty good.
Yeah, and DC United's a team that has scored significantly more goals than Minnesota has in the year. Minnesota is typically a team that relies on the defensive calling card, but like you said, the foul that I believe Nahar drew was not a particularly egregious foul. It was not a dirty foul by any means, but it was a foul in the box, and that's the way the rules are set up. To have a team that is consistently putting the ball forward, playing inside the other team's box, there have been times where we've prayed for a cross into the box, much less possession in the box from a center back. Good things happen when you control the ball, when you put the other team under pressure. They make mistakes, and it was a mistake to commit that foul and give Ola, who is an excellent penalty kick taker, the opportunity to slot in the back of the net. You saw a little bit of a different approach from the keeper, dancing around a little bit, and then Ola sends him the wrong way, and he finishes it. It's a great result, and not to be outdone. Later in the first half, Ola says, I can't. I'm not just a penalty scorer. I'm not just a scorer. I can also help out my teammates. The second goal that we had in the half comes after Minnesota has a really fantastic header.
The Bossy, the French, I believe, French center back. I think he's either French or he was playing in Ligue 1. I can't remember which one, but we were looking at him, and I guess obviously moved on, and Minnesota picked him up. It was a good set piece, and I think, like you said, that's been Minnesota's kind of game plan: be defensively stout, win set pieces. Mm-hmm. It's tough, and that's when I started having the Orlando flashbacks. So like, oh man, these guys are gonna bucker, but it wasn't gonna happen. DC United, like you said, I don't know what happened. I think Ola and Gressel split a fortune cookie the wrong way, and they like switch bodies. It's Ola driving down the right side, fighting off two defenders, and then he gets the ball inside to Gressel, who does well to just dribble to the spot where a goal is probable, and then fires it. I think across the face of the goal and in. It was nice. It was so nice.
Yeah, you're never going to see a full-on switch between those two, but it did seem like they had switched roles, at least for that play, and there have certainly been times where that kind of clinical finishing from Gressel would have been welcome from anyone who's playing up top, whether it's Kamara or anyone else. Gressel really took advantage of the opportunity there, but a lot of credit to Olaf for playing that ball in and he was really doing a lot of animating the game throughout the first half. You saw him coming back, help out in defense, and playing wide, really doing all those things that you look for from your target striker. And now we've got Sam Kastner, who's coming, joining us live after taking in the post-game press conference. Welcome, Sam. How do you feel about the game?
Hey, I feel great. That was so fun. As someone who missed Saturday's game, that was a bomb to watch. It looked like the team had a lot of fun, and there were quite a couple games in the press, or a couple questions in the press conference about how the team was feeling, and everyone kind of said that the team's feeling great, having fun. You have to have that winning mentality. You have to get in the habit of winning, and we're definitely doing that at home, it feels like now, which is so fun.
Absolutely. It is such a different attitude for a team where you go into games expecting to win, expecting to have a fun time doing it. You expect to, frankly, score multiple goals. Look forward to hearing some of the takeaways from the press conference there. But as we were running through the goals, halftime, games 2-1, still kind of up in the air, and that was really the way the second half played out. Was both teams having some opportunities, but DC United managed to put it away late.
As quickly as I got nervous that this might become a bunkering fest and a gritty match by Minnesota, DC United are able to break through, and I think it's huge. Like you said, goals change games, and we're able to go into halftime, kind of reset a little bit, and then come out, and pretty soon after half, we thought Ola was going to get one step closer to his 20 goals that he's absolutely going to get this year, right?
Yeah, I saw a lot of comments on Twitter about you can fool Tyler Miller once, but you can't fool him twice. A lot of question, there was the one side that was like, oh, has Ola been figured out? Unknown. But then the other side that was kind of like, you can't get them all. It was a pretty poorly taken PK. It was just left of center. You can't expect him to get them all.
Yeah, the purist in me would love to see a penalty taker who just steps up and rockets it to the upper 90 every time. But you really can't argue with the results that Ola has had on the season. He tends to get the keeper to go the wrong way, and I don't know if it's the way he does the run up, the body language he shows. But he finally got caught out with, again, not a great effort on the penalty. Again, a penalty that was probably deserved. Maybe.
Oh yeah, Russell Canals with the moves in the box.
Listen,
was not ready for that. But yeah, Russell Canals shifts it to his left, and the defender just misses and takes him down.
I was listening to the press conference, so I don't know exactly what you all said about the first PK, but I was saying this in the stands. It's phenomenal because all of our PKs this season have been absolutely earned. They've been almost across the board 100% fouls in the box, a solid PK. But from the perspective of the defending team, absolutely not the PK you want to give away, because more often than not, we're not taking a shot on goal. It's a move to take the offensive, our DC United player away from goal, or it's kind of a move to set up the pass for possibly the shot to happen. So they've all been absolutely deserved PKs, but from the defensive position, it's why are you even going in for that tackle? It's mind boggling.
We did kind of hit on that, especially with Nahar's where he's moving away.
Yeah.
I think Russell might actually try to shoot there, but honestly, I take I don't think it makes sense to lunge in on Russell Canals, even if he is in the box with the ball, especially after DC United's shooting efforts for other parts of the game.
And part of that comes from the game flow in general. If it's a one-off opportunity where Canals happens to get up the field, perhaps the defender makes a better decision. But when you are pressing and going forward and creating opportunities and keeping the defense on their heels, they make mistakes. It's very hard to defend at an elite level for a full 90 minutes. And if you are challenging another team to do so, more often than not, you're going to have opportunities. And you saw that today. It's a 3-1 win. It's fairly comfortable at the end of the day. You certainly had chances where the ball could have found its way in the back of our net several times. It's a dead horse, but Bill came up big at least twice.
Yeah.
And we love to see the great work from him back there. But talking a little bit about the team's reaction after the game, Sam, you had an opportunity to listen to Hernan and a couple of the other guys weigh in. Any major takeaways before we're going to add the press conference in at the end, but would love to hear your takeaways from having listened to it live.
Yeah, I'd just like to comment, we really hope to add the presser in. We always say that. Sometimes we can't. It's always due to technical difficulties. That is the reason we don't push pods right after. So, apologies if you listen to the podcast and we say we're going to add it and then we don't. We really try our best to. But just, knock on wood. Sorry, that was really loud. I'll get into kind of overall gameplay, but just kind of keeping in line with the trajectory of the game. Donovan Pines, we heard from Hernan Losada, Donovan Pines, and Paul Arriola. And Donovan Pines, Goff was the first one to ask a question. He asked about, how the team's feeling playing at home and whatnot. And then he asked about the bicycle kick, which I had kind of joked about asking about. Then Steve Goff asked about it. So I was like, solid question. Donovan answered about, playing at home. Everyone knows their role. The leaders are great. The team's just feeling good. And then he stopped. And then someone in the background, I'm assuming Sam or Rory, kind of said, oh, but what about the bicycle kick? Donovan was like, oh, yeah. He was like, I'm trying to keep that under wraps, play it low key. He said pretty much quote that they were playing soccer tennis and he tried a bicycle kick for that and almost got the point in soccer tennis. So going into the game today, he was like, if I have the opportunity, you might as well try it. And he kept saying a once in a lifetime opportunity, but then he also kept saying like, maybe next time I'll get it. I really thought it was going upper corner. I thought it was going to be a little closer. Had I just turned my body a little bit, I would have been able to go for the other side of the goal. Like, he was really analyzing that bicycle kick and feeling himself with it. And I know, like, as a fan, we all really wanted that for him and just loved him taking the effort. So,
I think all of us would love to see Donovan Pines score on a bicycle kick.
I would die. Oh, man.
At the same time, I'm currently wearing a Chris Rolfe jersey, a man who missed a significant amount of time after hurting himself trying to do an overhead kick, I believe, in practice. So, Donovan, if you've got it in a game and it makes sense, go for it. But please do not spend your time working on that.
Yeah. I'm going to say, I agree. He makes good contact. Like, it was decent. But Donovan, you're probably the tallest player on the field in most MLS games. Just hop, and you can probably head that far post. Like, I don't know if you're the player that needs to go for the overhead.
Everyone's feeling themselves right now, so we're going for the flair. He's like, MLS in general is not talking about DC United enough. I'm going to give him something to talk about. Speaking of, just going right into the third goal, Paul was asked by Jason Anderson from Black and Red United, how everyone was feeling about Junior Moreno's goal.
His first ever for DC
United. And that's what Paul said.
Yeah.
He was like, I still don't believe that. Like, I didn't think it on the field, and then we came off and someone said it and everyone was like, no way. You've had so many minutes with DC United. No way that was your first goal.
Trust me, we've been keeping track.
Oh, yeah. But I guess as a team, they, in their minds, thought that he had definitely deserved goals before now. But they were all really excited for him. And Paul specifically gave him a lot of props, for coming off the bench. That's really hard. But he kind of talked about his versatility and being willing to play for the team in any role.
Yeah, and that's a goal where Junior takes up, moves up and takes the opportunity. It's a ball that, if it doesn't take the deflection, maybe the keeper covers it, maybe it's not even on target. But if you're creating opportunities, similar to the penalty calls early in the game, if you are in a position where you're shooting and putting the ball on goal, good things happen. And early in the season, we had some frustrations with the finishing from the team and things not quite going our way. As of late, everything's coming up golden for DC United. So having deflections like that is the things you don't expect, but are happy to have when they come.
Yeah, and look, I think with some better shooting, DC United could have put probably. I've been searching for the XG. I don't know if
It was like 3 point something.
Oh, it should have been way higher than that because the ball finds Flores wide open late. I know he missed one of those. Paul curls one in that looks super nice, but it's called offside. And they had to go to the VAR. A bunch of other chances, but yeah, you don't.
You already had that one.
Yeah. Yordi seems to have one almost every week now.
More than one, maybe.
It's okay. It's okay because we still got 3 goals. And James Lambert was pointing out that we've scored the second highest goals in the league. If you can continue to score at that rate, that's what you need to do to go far in playoffs. You need to be able to score goals because that's how you win games. And it doesn't matter if you tie in the playoffs. Someone's got to come away.
Especially the way that DC United wants to play, wanting to play on the front foot, wanting to push forward, wanting to really animate the game. You can do that so much better when the other team is on the back foot, trying to respond after having given up a goal. I'd worry sometimes about what would happen if we can get into a slugfest, a kind of a 0-0 game where you need some kind of magic late, because we haven't really had those kind of games. And that's not really the kind of games that we're set up to play, and it's not games that we're seeking to create. Like, if it's up to Losada, we'd be playing 3-1, 4-2 every game. And this week, that's what we're doing.
And Losada mentioned it. I while I was waiting for the press conference, I think, Joshua, you specifically mentioned the Orlando game and how this is pretty comparable because Minnesota, put in that fifth defender and really sat back. And Hernan was specifically asked in comparison with that Orlando game, kind of what the differences were. And Hernan said that it to him fills the team with a lot of confidence to see the other team completely changing their tactics to defend against DC United. He said that to me tells us that we know what we're doing and we're doing it very well. And the team kind of knows how to adapt to that, which is a little bit questionable in my mind, which we can get to in a second. But just that generally everything that happened tonight made the team feel really good. And it was everything they were kind of expecting and they were able to play into. And he was asked a lot about, the third place finish, which I also heard you all mention. And he was very quick to say that one of the games is still going on. I don't know if at live recording, 10 minutes later, if it's still going on. But he kind of said, I wrote down the quote. He kind of said, we're feeling good tonight, but a loss this weekend, we're back down to 8th. Like the East is so close. He said, we really just have to play for the next game and then see where we end up. He specifically said, I'll take a quick nap and tomorrow we'll start again, which was just funny to me. Like this man's commitment. He's like, yeah, I'll get a little short night's rest, so we'll nap in, and then we'll wake up raring to go for Orlando tomorrow, which I just thought was funny.
The game he's referencing there is the Nashville-Orlando game, which Orlando did equalize on an own goal at the last minute, but that brings it to a draw for those teams. Orlando could have jumped DC United, but they did not, so DC United is still in third, and I guess closer to second now because Nashville dropped those 2 points.
Love it.
Yeah, it is still unbelievable, and again, we're also, I think, 2 points out of being in 8th and out of the playoffs. So it is a exciting thing down the stretch. But you would much rather be at the top end with 7 games to go. We'll have 6 after the international break. Many of those games will be right here at Audi Field. It's a good spot to be in.
It's a great spot to be in, and there's a lot of. I think a majority of home games left. So, and we've been so good at home. So I have a good feeling. You mentioned what we thought, coming into the season. A lot of us maybe had DC United right on the fringes, and that's still possible. But it definitely does feel good to be up there in third right now, even if it is such a small margin.
Absolutely. Mentality is everything. I've been saying that for a long time. Hernan kind of said that in the press conference that you have to get into that winning habit, especially at home. And he said, I think it was Hernan who said it, that it might have been Paul or Donovan, but in this league, like, you have to get your points at home. And this is something that's something that this team is definitely learning how to do and doing well. And that's going to mean a lot in this playoff push after the international break. Yeah.
Normally a team that gets 54, 55 points will generally host a game at home. We're now on, I think it's 40. So, still plenty of work to do to finish it out strong. But you would much rather be on the trajectory that DC United is right now, and it's an exciting place to be. Playing with a lot of confidence, like Sam said, the players are excited to be out there. They're trying new things. They're having fun, showing up to work, and that sometimes can make all the difference. It's an exciting thing to see.
It's so exciting. I love it.
Yeah, I'm just peeking ahead at the schedule, and DC United are obviously away in Orlando. John, who we haven't given a shout yet, will be down there for taking a break from all the Disney attractions to taking a DC United soccer game on the road. I'm sure that'll be so much fun. But that's a big one. That's the team that Hernan had his eye on just now. They could jump us with a win there. Then we play Nashville. If things go right, that could be a potential jump game.
Yeah.
If they lose and we win.
That's at home too, right?
So that's at home. New England's going to be tough, and then NYCFC might be tough, and then the rest of the teams we play are not inside the current playoff bracket for the last 3 games of the season. There's a lot of points and a lot of stuff. I want to shout our friend Kevin, who had the live table up the entire game, I think, watching as each goal across the league changed the outcomes for the postseason, which won't happen for a month or so now.
This is that crazy time of the season. Someone said to me today, his name was Josh Screaming Eagle fan. He said today that this season gets excited when the Nets turn yellow, right? Because that's September. It's Childhood Cancer Month. The weather's getting better, and it's getting to that playoff push, which I just thought was a great way to kind of summarize what the end of the season, right? Kind of what we look forward to.
Yeah, absolutely. There have been years where the MLS season will be wrapping up this coming weekend, and as it is with the changes and what have you, you still got another 5 or 6 weeks. But it's an exciting time to be a soccer fan. It's always nice when you start getting into that looking at the table season, because we've been trying to temper expectations over the course of the year. You can't really make a whole lot of projections about where folks are in April or June or even August. But now that it's about to be October, fall is going to be in full effect. It's time to look at the table and see what the team can do. So I guess that brings up a question for us. What are our expectations now for this DC United team the rest of the year and into the playoffs?
I think it's so tough because it could go, we kind of broke it down and you mentioned it could go either way. We could end up, as I optimistically said, in second place with just a couple matches going our way.
Which everyone, mark your bingo board, because that we never thought Joshua would have the optimistic take about where he'd be in the
Or we could lose one game and be out of the playoffs with some results. I think that's mathematically possible. It depends on who's playing who. But 1 or 2 matches, and we're also out of the playoffs. So it's going to be super tough. I think the team is playing the way Hernan wants to play right now. 4 goals, 3 goals, and defending well and keeping the opposing teams' goal count lower than that. And that's what Hernan wants to do. That's the type of soccer he told us he wanted to play at the beginning of the year. I don't know if the team is that level yet. I have concerns with some of the personnel out on the field, and we can get into a little bit of who's doing well enough, who's earning their money right now, and that kind of stuff later after the question. But to answer yours, I expect DC United, if things are going great and we can get the optimistic Joshua out, as Sam calls me out for that, I think they continue to roll. I think they continue to push. They get goals early. Ola gets PKs. He hits 20 goals. And DC United fly into the playoffs. It's not too far out to start getting hot now. It's time. So that's what I'm looking for.
Sam,
Absolutely.
Are we catching New England?
Oh, no. That's an unfair question. You're we can't just have Sam praising DC United. We have to take her down a peg.
They haven't mathematically won it, but I don't know if we're the ones keeping them from doing it.
No.
No, we're probably not matching New England. I think we're on the momentum and we're on the track, knock on wood, barring anything horrible happening, from definitely making the playoffs. I think a home playoff game would be absolutely great. And I think, Joshua, you alluded to this a little bit, that the best of DC is still yet to come. And I mean, another bingo card, right? I've said this on every single podcast, but Hernan didn't promise the playoffs this season. He promised just getting the team to learn his tactics. And I was saying that during the game today, is that you can see that this team knows exactly where that first pass should be. You can see where their triggers are. You can see they know where the runs are. But I think the second layer to learning Hernan's tactics is what happens when that play is off, because you can see the player making the run and the player with the ball trying to pass it. But a lot today, Minnesota were cutting off those runs and they were cutting off those passes, and they kind of knew how to anticipate DC United and what they were going to do. And tonight we ended up coming out on top and being able to find the back of the net still. But I think the second layer of what Hernan is going to teach this team is when that first pass is off, what is the second pass and where are we looking to make that second play, and what are those kind of second triggers to make sure that we're keeping the ball and not just trying to force it in, these rigid structures, but also that opens up for a lot of fluidity, right? Like it's definitely a balance, but I think that they're next season, and he's going to use this off season and whatever signings we bring in to really teach the team how to be even more fluid within this structure and to learn for that second trigger, which is just going to be phenomenal to watch, I think.
Yeah.
You got expectations for us, Stu?
Yeah, I think at this point, this team has to make the playoffs. Now, if they don't, is it the end of the world? No, I think if you finish, just on the outside looking in, we'll be disappointed. But you can look at the totality of the season and say that that's a pretty acceptable result. But I'm not going to lie and say that we wouldn't be disappointed to have that, because right now this is a team that is playing good soccer. You can't say that about every other team that we're in the fight with in the East. And if you do find a way to miss out on the playoffs from where we're at right now, that would mean that you had some frustrating results down the stretch. Now you can certainly get outplayed and have that happen, but I don't expect that from the way this team is right now. Looking at the game tonight, I think it was a lot more illustrative than what you saw with the Cincinnati game, where it was basically over by halftime. This was a game where you go up a goal, you concede one right back on a special finish, from Minnesota, and the team still rallied to get that second goal before halftime. That's always such a huge lift to have that lead going into half. That completely changes the way the coaches will, talk and set up the guys for the second half. Instead of having a level pegging, you are up one, what you have to do. If you just hold them for the rest of the game, you win. And so I love seeing that kind of mentality play out. It's something that the players have talked about, needing to really be mentally strong, being ready to handle adversity when it comes up. And if you continue to apply that in the games moving forward, I don't see there's any way this team misses the playoffs.
Listen, we were like 15 minutes out of a playoff spot last season. So if we don't
the playoffs had
season,
10 spots last year.
We were also a dumpster fire last season. So yes, it's harder this season, but we've also significantly upgraded.
If we find a way to finish outside the top 10 this year, which I suppose is possible, that would be very disappointing.
Yeah, I've been on I think until a few weeks ago, I was still expecting DC United to kind of slug through the finish, and I was saying best case scenarios, we get hot now, and it looks like we're starting to get at least warm. So yeah, I think now, being in third, even though it's just like 1 point keeping us in the playoffs, it would be disappointing, especially the way the team is playing. And I think a lot of it, I think the way that happens is kind of what you were talking about, Sam, where it's the tactics are getting us to the goals right now. It's always wide, and it's always someone sneaking one in. There's been a corner trick play here and there, and Ola PK almost every game, but there's no real option 2, like you said. And I think the option 2 for most MLS teams, the way they're set up, is a special moment from a player. And I was really excited tonight when Paul scored, even though it didn't count, because it would have meant he was one.
It was a great goal.
We can't keep relying on Kamara and Gressel to do their thing every game. Eventually, someone's going to key in on them and put like 4 defenders on both of them, or whatever. I think we need special moments from whoever is playing those 2 wing spots. And Areola, I was so excited that he might be coming through, but he skies a pretty bad chance, and then he's offside on the other.
No, I love that you said that. I think it's teaching the players how to create those special moments, right? That's entirely what this system and kind of what these tactics are about, is that you don't need the high name players. You don't need like the most expensive players to play. You're kind of teaching them how to make those runs and how to create those moments. So you're absolutely right. And I'm so excited because we do have like so many young players and so many players that know how to play within MLS who, 2 separate categories, young and then know how to play in MLS. You have those 2 categories that you can absolutely teach how to create those special moments within the system, and that's when this team lights on fire. And I'd like to point out that DC United, while in third behind Nashville, have more wins than Nashville, which is super exciting. And as we've talked about the soccer, that we love to see, just got to tighten up that defense a little bit. But I think it's all coming together, right?
Yeah.
No, mine was a little bit of a detraction. I think DC United will struggle against teams like New England, who they play, and even Orlando. I think with We 15 shots it seems, and 7 off target. And some of those that were off target were bad misses. And I think what takes this team from a playoff team to a contender this year is our players doing what they need to do when they get the chances, and it's happening. And I have faith in it, and it might be a confidence thing, but I don't want Losada to go off on them, but I want them to remind them, like, hey, you're expected to make this shot and make this moment happen.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know what's happening behind doors because he's been all positivity after these home runs with press, right? But you have to think, like, I mean, so are the players. You don't think that he's just doing that for the press and then turning around and absolutely ragging on them for not putting in those chances. So, I mean, I think he is kind of like, yes, like, this is the momentum. Let's build on it.
Yeah, I think it's challenging to look at. When you look at a team like New England that has they're probably going to set a record for points in MLS, which I wish I had been able to bet on before the season started, because I don't think anyone would have had that and pretty good odds on it. But it's a team that's doing it without having any major superstars, guys that have emerged over the course of the season, and you look at now, but going in, New England does not have a massive salary budget. They didn't make a huge signing in the offseason. They've been getting the most out of what they have, and I think that's what you would love to see out of this DC United team. Joshua, you alluded to it a little bit. We haven't seen a game where, except perhaps the Toronto game, which and it's an outlier of itself. DC United just gets bad coaches fired. You haven't seen a game where every player on the field is hitting on all cylinders. That was the case tonight. You had some errors, you had some misses, you had players who were playing at a high level and certainly good enough to win. But I would love to see what this team can do when everyone is at their best. And I think that product we may not see this year. It's a very hard thing to do, and to get all of the guys going in the same direction, especially still working through this new system. But if you do manage it, you've got a very scary team that no one wants to play in the playoffs.
I think that's what makes this team so exciting, though, is that it's the same team from last season, right? Like plus or minus 1 or 2 players, like. It's the same personnel and they're the same quality of player, but everyone is just being made to excel this season. And I think that is what is super exciting and has the fan base riled up, and what makes even looking at like Losada's second and third year so exciting is that once, Lucy and him really get working together and, sign some players in the off season, and we get some players who are tailor made to this system. I mean, it's going to be so fun to watch.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the reasons that you want to have a team that makes the playoffs this year. It's a solid upward arc. It will make recruiting players a little bit easier moving forward. It's, again, I am not a top-level player. I've never pretended to be. But it would seem to stand to reason that you would like to go to a team that is a contender, and if you are trying to pitch guys on coming to DC United and saying, well, we just missed the playoffs last year, but look how fun we were, versus, hey, this is a team that made the playoffs, and we're clearly on upward trend, we score lots of goals, it's fun to play at. Player recruitment is involved. The money's got to be behind it too, because nobody's going to come here to play for free. But I think we all think that there are moves you can make in the offseason to make this into an even better team, and a team that lines up with the vision of what Losada wants to see.
I think that's big. What you kind of just hit on there is big too. I think making the playoffs this year and all the goals and everything not only shows incoming players, but it shows the ownership. And I think Levy enjoys winning. He talked to us about how fun it was in the playoff game and the memories he saw being made in the stadium that day. I think he wants to win. We've got some new minority owners. Mark Ingram's going to buy us a DP.
Not Yo Gotti?
Both of them. But it's to the point where the MLS roster rules changed this past season. Now you can sign a young DP for your third spot and get 2 young money. I don't even know the real one. Young money players. Shouts to Sam Stachel and Paul Zenorio for coining that. But it basically allows you to invest a bunch of more money in the roster, and I think that's almost as important as winning and showing incoming players. showing ownership to, hey, go out and pay for these players because look what I can do with what, I was given.
I think it cannot be understated, though, and shouts to Angus Long for saying this. Like, Lasada is our other DP signing, honestly. Like, get around it. Miami wish they had our creativity, but he is that difference maker in this league for us.
Yeah, and to Lasada's credit, he looks at it and says that the team and the system is our third DP. I, for one, would like to have an actual DP. And I think that's three of us. But talking about players and talking about performances, I think it's time for us to call out our favorite performances of the night. So, for man of the match, Sam, what do you think?
All right, I don't think I'm gonna get a lot of agrees on this, but I thought Donovan Pines had a really good game, and I said this at halftime, and everyone around me kind of said he's one mistake away from not having a good game, and that's basically the Pines game, right? Is like he
live and die.
Exactly. But we did not die tonight. So
who was the defender on the goal that they scored?
Shut up. I think we all agreed that was not necessarily like completely
it's a good moment from Minnesota.
Yeah,
exactly.
Sure.
Yes. Donovan has given up some other very much his fault goals. But tonight, I mean, I think it was like a classic Donovan game. He's super raw. He was in all those right spots. He was moving forward, making that, bicycle kick effort. But, the fact that he didn't make that mistake tonight makes me kind of feel like perhaps he's learning a little bit. It just looked like he was pretty confident tonight. And I thought that he had a really good defensive game.
Yeah. Joshua?
I'll give Donovan Pines props. He had a good night, and look at Sam going for the fancy finisher. That's our man of the match. But I think Pines is propped up by playing next to one of the best center backs in the league right now, Andy Nahar, who him and Gressel up the right side is something crazy. I want to give shouts to Ola Kamara, who was everywhere on the field. He's much more than a PK taker for this team. He is hustling, pressing. It all starts from him. His hold-up play was great, but I didn't want to go back-to-back, but I have to go with Gressel here. He gets in and finishes a shot right before half. It completely changes the game in my perspective. I think if Minnesota get the half to talk about how they're going to bunker against us, we're talking maybe not as much about playoffs and deep runs and whatnot. I think we're talking a little bit more sadly. But Gressel goes in and finishes it, and he creates almost every single game. It's so much fun to watch him play. So yeah, Julian Gressel for me.
Yeah, that's the beauty of being a post game show is that we get to react quickly. We get to ride the highs, ride the lows, and go all the way through it.
I'm just saying that you disagree with both of ours.
No, I don't.
He said after more analysis, you're going to regret those decisions.
I don't disagree with either of them, except that I don't choose either of them as my. I think Donovan Pines had a good game. Like, again, the goal was not on him. A solid performance of him, and Gressel continues to amaze with what he's able to do out there, and the service he provides, and the clearly the finishing that he exhibited today was top notch, and there were several other opportunities. I think Gressel had the ball to Yordi that should have been in the back of the net and was instead landing in our laps and stands. But for me, I've got to give my man of the match to Ola Kamara today. The man scores on the penalty, has the second penalty saved, not great, but he was also the one who had the assist on the Gressel goal. As Joshua said, he was all over the place, going forward, coming back, hold up play, really engaged in those beautiful 1-2s that we love to see. I thought he had a great game and really, seemed to have probably the best command of the system that I've seen out of him over the course of the season. So, for me, if Ola's not there in the first half getting, that penalty goal and the assist, DC United's not up 2-1 at halftime and not able to close it out and win 3-1. So for me, it's Ola Kamara.
I like it, and his minutes were managed again, keeping his goals per minute way down, way up at the top of the league. The ice bags on the back of the legs after the game, I think, just as a precaution. I'm excited. Yes, wrap him in bubble wrap and have
Just ship him to Orlando.
ship him towards the playoffs game. So.
Yeah, I mean, the team will not be practicing too hard over the next day or so before they fly on down to Orlando.
I like our picks though, guys.
Solid.
It is so nice to have a plethora of players to choose from when you're talking about guys who had great performances. How many times have we come in here and said, well, I guess this guy didn't play badly.
Default,
That's his worst game ever.
Yeah, but please let us know your thoughts at Tried and True DCU on Twitter or any of the other social platforms we've got. We'd love to hear from listeners out there, and feel free to disagree with us. We don't have a clue sometimes, but that's what we love talking about this game. So
as you said, very quick reactions based on what we may or not intoxicatedly have seen during the game.
Absolutely. So looking around the league, we've got DC United will be playing on the road at Orlando this coming weekend. I believe the Washington Spirit won this past weekend, which is a small miracle in itself, considering all the things going on with the Spirit.
Yeah.
They play again this Friday against the North Carolina Courage.
I'd like to shout the picture that's been going around. First of all, shouts to DC United for allowing the Sell the Team Steve Baldwin banner to be up, because that's now like a national movement. Shouts to Doug and Angus for that. But also DC United owners just allowing that to go up, and spotted taking pictures with the banner. We love that. I guess that's kind of support there. Just a big moment. Yeah.
Would you like to see DC United owners more heavily invested in?
I think that's a very interesting question, seeing as this women's league is coming out, and I don't know, and DC United will have a women's team in that. So I would love, overall, I just love for the NWSL to have more of a partnership with MLS, and for those teams to have more of a partnership and more, just fluidity within playing, in each other's stadiums, and kind of sharing even marketing and potentially back-to-back games. I believe Portland might have done that this season, if I'm not mistaken. They did a back-to-back men's and women's game. I think all of that is great, and it grows both. Those are two such different fan bases. I think it kind of grows both the games. With this new women's league kind of associated with MLS teams, I don't really know what the future of that holds, and it's very new, so I don't know if that information is just not out there, or potentially I'm just not as informed as I could be on that. Mm-hmm. So the short answer is, I'd love if DC United ownership stepped in this to, work with the Spirit and potentially take that over. But overall, I don't know if that's potentially a conflict of interest or something like that.
It'll be interesting. I'm just hoping that the league steps in at this point and does something. That whole situation is beyond terrible, and it's stark compared to DC United, and seeing our owners take these pictures is kind of awesome, right? Because they supported fan-free speech. There's nothing ugly about that, telling Steve to sell the team. It's just
doesn't go against any guidelines.
But I don't know if it's a good idea. Someone with way more experience and both of those leagues would probably have to tell me an educated opinion about that before I could get mine.
Yeah, I think in a perfect world, you'd have everyone coming together, and rising tide lifts all boats. If one league is succeeding, one team is succeeding, all the teams are able to benefit from that. I would be a little bit concerned about having the women's team turn into somewhat of a redhead stepchild, where they're not the first priority of the team.
Like basement dwellers allowed in United.
Well, United, which play I believe tomorrow night in New Jersey against the Red Bulls 2, who are second bottom. So maybe there's an opportunity there.
Interesting game.
But it's hard to call on DC United to expand their presence there when we're hoping that they spend money on the first team.
Absolutely. Yeah, that wasn't me calling on DC United for that. That was just an extra speculative question. And I also, just while we're talking about it, I want to shout the Spirit Squadron. It's never an easy decision to not root for your team. I know that they didn't come to that lightly, but I thought the statement they put out was very well put, and a very good take on the situation. And from my understanding, they did award a player of the match last night, and there was some communication with them, and I think the players understand as well where the squadron are coming to, which is important, right? Because as a supporter, you don't want to feel like the team thinks you're abandoning them, but it's just kind of nonsense all around. And hopefully we do see some changes there. I know the NWSL has, put out some of their investigative results, and I think we have, 12 days now for a response. So
that sounds right.
We'll see how it goes.
And it just makes me all the more happy that DC United is currently in third. Anything else we missed? Paul Arriola got called up to the national team.
Yes, he was asked about that. I don't remember who asked him about that. Sorry, I'm looking at my notes. But he said he was super excited and honored to be participating in the second cycle. He said that the entire group understands how important it is. They're all super humble, and they really want to be successful for the country. But then he did kind of throw it back to the fact that he does have one more game on Saturday to look forward to with DC United before moving on to those men's national team games.
Yep, and those are all quick, fast, and in a hurry, so no missed time from DC United.
DC United doesn't have any games, during the window.
I'm excited for Paul. Hopefully he stays healthy and gets all the points so that the men's team make it to the World Cup.
Yes. Yes, I do have a couple other things just before we wrap. Like the ghost of John is telling me to talk about this part in the presser. Paul was asked about Felipe's hair being dyed this game and what he thought about that. And Paul's reaction was, I didn't see that coming. He got out of his car and I was like, oh, good for you. But he said it's great and everyone's having fun. And, some professional players can be quite superstitious is what he said. So perhaps that's going into it.
But if this whole team is dyed blonde for the playoffs, I'll still watch them. I'll still cheer for them, but I won't enjoy it.
I was about to, Paul cannot talk. Glass stones, glass houses. The guy is currently rocking noodles on his head. It's getting ridiculous at this point.
Listen, if we keep winning, though, I don't care.
I think DCU Soccer on Twitter said that if Hernan dyes his hair, he's and I think me and Black are there probably the same too.
Yes, I think I saw DCU Soccer specifically tweet that. It was pretty funny. Lastly, it's the second to last day of Kick Childhood Cancer Month. So just send that hashtag out, and I don't remember who because it's late on a Wednesday and I drink today, but someone donates money, probably Continental Tires or someone who's affiliated with the league, donates money for every hashtag Kick Childhood Cancer. We'll tweet that out from the show. I don't know if you guys want to get into like the MLS Liga MX craziness that's been announced a little bit.
We won. So
Columbus won Campeones Cup tonight.
Yep. So going into next season and potentially, tearing apart the Open Cup, which John isn't here to defend.
That sounds like a great off-season show.
Yeah, we talked about it a little bit the other day. I think, again, we'd love to see more soccer. I have questions about how this is going to all play out, and especially if it ends up robbing us of our precious Open Cup.
Yep, that's fair. My last thing is just Latino Heritage Month is now until October 15th. DC United did have done fun things for that, and they still have educational and resourceful links on their website, so go check that out.
3 more goals tonight against MS. I think it's another $3,000 donated by Lidos. That's a fantastic thing, and obviously near and dear to our hearts, Dave Johnson is struggling with that disease, and love to see the support for the cause there. I think we've covered everything.
Yeah, it was a fun one tonight. That's always fun winning midweek.
Yeah.
All right. Well, stay tuned. We'll push out the information on our next show coming at you real soon. Until then, this has been Tried and True, the DC United Postgame podcast presented by Heineken.